My name's Robin Jury and I worked for the Education Department in South Australia for 23 years. I was designing the curriculum with a team of graphic designers in Publications Branch. In the year 1987, there was an explosion of chemicals in the cupboard, and I was exposed to those chemicals through a peak exposure. Prior to that exposure, over a period of, I would say 6 years, I was also exposed to a range of chemicals, but xylene was the most prominent chemical that I was exposed to on a regular basis. On the day itself, I walked into the office along with many other colleagues, and there was a terrible odour in the room. It was really very strong. All of us sat for the whole morning with this odour just permeating through the room. And then I was feeling so sick, headaches, feeling a bit dizzy. And then I went to the manager and said, I need to leave, this is terrible, or investigate, where is this coming from? And so we investigated, and the cupboard nearest to me was opened. I was in the front line. Another person opened the door and was also hit by the fumes and hid behind the door. I was right in front, and because it wasn't a cupboard that was safe, it didn't have air vents, the fumes came directly at me and I was gagged. From that exposure, plus previous years of exposure, accumulating over 6 years of not only xylene, exposed to xylene, which was inherent in that can of fixative glue, I became very sick over a period of 9 to 12 months. Gradually, one by one, each organ started to malfunction. You see, this type of accident impacts upon your life in so many ways. Not only is it the original injury and coping with the psychological aspects of that, as well as the physical, there's the mental and the emotional. I thought I had AIDS. I thought, but how? I was married to my husband, and I thought, I don't believe this is happening to me. How can this happen? I'm only 38. I was a strong woman. I was in a capsule. I became allergic to the 20th century because it was in the 20th century then. But I couldn't go to the theatre. I couldn't go to plays because of other people's perfumes and hairspray. I would become dizzy and I would almost faint. It was just, I was overwhelmed by the smallest amounts of exposure to these range of chemicals. And the cost of all of this is extraordinary, far more than I was ever compensated for. So it does impact on a life tremendously, especially that you can hardly move out of your home. Even just to drive in the car, the petrol fumes, just driving in the car, I would feel enormously ill. And it was almost, if I could describe it, like from the comic book Superman, it was like exposure to kryptonite. I would just feel as if I had someone draining every little bit of energy out of me, and chronic fatigue was something that I lived with for the better part of 20 years, really. It's hard to imagine that you could lose friends through this, but some friends couldn't cope with the trauma of all of this, and that's understandable. There's no, judgment upon them, and some of the family couldn't understand it either. I mean, for them to come to dinner at my home, they couldn't wear perfume, and if they came, they would have to put up with the type of food that I was eating, or I'd have to cook 2 meals. My son and my husband, they were so amazingly helpful, wonderful people that stood by me. And my son at 12 years old, he did the cleaning, he did a lot of the cleaning, and he learned to cook. And he was a brick. My husband too, wonderful people. You cherish these people. So I had to try very hard to get well for them. Also, I grieved about what happened to my professional life because I thought I just need to create, and I didn't have the energy to create. And I thought, how can I rebuild my life from this? I had to have faith that it was going to work.